Good morning and welcome to the AI Executive Morning Buzz. We are back. This is your go to live broadcast for real time AI insights, industry trends, and executive level analysis. And as always, promised without the hype and noise. I'm your host, Albert Ramos, and I'm here with our CEO and founder of White Glove AI, Nick James, and our virtual CAIO, Jason Hess. We're going to jump right in. We got 30 minutes. We got a couple of great topics, and we're going to kick it off in the retail space. There's a lot going on. If you've been to a recent conference, you know what I'm talking about. But here, let's jump in. I'm going to switch it over to Nick. We're actually going to talk about how AI is transforming the CX, the customer experience in the retail environment. Nick, let's start there. Over to you, sir.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you, Albert. I appreciate it. I think there's a lot of ways that AI can transform the retail floor. And one of the biggest ways that has been taking storm is the tailor fit experience, right? I think Neiman Marcus was famous for this and really held that luxury standard by giving tailor fit custom service to their customers. And this is back in the 90s. And I think it still rings true. But how is that transforming in the retail space when it comes to online shopping? Right? It's not possible to have tailor fit measurements when I'm shopping online, but retailers are overcoming these challenges by using AI, right? By allowing me to just take a video or take pictures of my full body and send those images, and AI makes the estimations. Now, that's all fine and dandy, and I think it's amazing. Amazon does it. It's called Fit Insights.
Right.
But I think there are also a lot of privacy concerns on being measured at that level by an AI model you know nothing about and you don't know where your data is going.
Yeah, I'm going to get over to Jason here because that's some really good points. Everyone's looking for the hyper personalized, customized space, right? And we like it. It's faster, it's tailored to my needs, my wants. But to your point, there are some risks. And Jason, I know you've been doing a lot of research here around just the data privacy side. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think ideally I understand why they want to do this and why luxury brands are trying to get to their customers. They know that those types of customers are more apt to adopt technology and adopt new things. But what are they doing with those pictures? It's how do you know that the company is going to take care of those images, protect those images? Look back as you start having kids and growing up and you're putting all these pictures on Facebook. Now the Facebook algorithm knows everything about your images of your kids. Like, what are they doing with that? So understanding what those ethical decisions that the companies are doing with the data that you're providing them is something that you really need to think about as a consumer before you start just randomly putting things onto the system and allowing them to do that. So I think there's something you really need to think about, and you've got to make those decisions of, I will go this far, but I won't go any farther than that when adopting a lot of these new tools. They are very creative and very useful, but you've got to make those decisions. And what is it that really makes it of value to the customer?
Yeah, good call. I think I was recently traveling and, I noticed the fine print when walking through TSA and using some of this technology, and you can actually opt out. And so I think to your point, it's really important that we do our research. Nick, I know White Glove does a lot on not only speaking about open source, but also creating a secure closed source. Do you want to chat about that and how we deliver some security measures?
Absolutely. So a lot of what you're seeing right now with AI models is that there are centralized providers out there. There's OpenAI, there's Anthropic, and the like, and there are quite a few others. Now, when it comes to those sorts of closed source model providers, it's really a black box, and there is no transparency, explainability, or ability to observe and audit exactly where those models are and what's done with what happens to your data, how it's being used, how it's potentially being resold. I'm not making any speculations. I'm just saying these are one of the risks. So it leads to a lot of frustration and concern by the consumer. Now, the consumer, perhaps it doesn't it doesn't surface to the level of the consumer because they're completely unaware. They're not reading the disclaimers or the terms and conditions. But the privacy aware consumer is something that's becoming bigger and bigger in a sense of, the number of people who are more privacy aware. And we're going to have to do a better job of providing disclaimers that aren't in 8 point or 7 point fine print. We need to be able to advise our consumers that, hey, this X retailer chose to go with, let's say, white glove AI, and have a private model that's deployed in that retailer's cloud environment, and to ensure that everything is protected and safe and their data is being properly handled.
Yeah, it's really good. Well, great. I'd love to switch gears, right? I
Can
know
I
on
can
our
I add a
oh, go ahead,
little bit to
Jason.
that? Because I think there's something else that's there. I heard it on another podcast this week. It is the royalties that no one's getting the royalties
Right.
of what's being trained on the model. So I was listening to a couple authors that their books just got ingested, and now you can write like Simon Sinek or Brene Brown and have
Right.
and they're not getting any of the royalties for all the intellectual property that they gave to the world, and these AI models just decided to swallow it up, and now you can talk and be as articulate from them. So I think this is something that it's definitely going to be a concern. And I know there's a lot of litigation already in place, but what is that going to look like in the future of being able to bring in this content that is proprietary to someone else?
Yeah, really good point. And I'm curious to see where the legal aspect sticks. I don't know. I think we've completely outpaced it. It might be the currency, or privacy is the currency to be able to play in this game. Who knows? But I love that we're talking about it, and I know there's a lot of people out there, including us, that focus on the cybersecurity, data security, rights with sensitive financial, personal information, et cetera. So that's good. Let's switch gears, because I know on our show, and a lot of people really like when we provide just some insights on tools that we're using, right? We have Lucidus AI here under the White Glove umbrella, right? We've talked about Lovable. We've talked about some other tools, including the large language models that people are pretty familiar with. But why don't we switch gears, Jason, into the emerging AI tools, some additional ones that are what we would say revolutionizing the biz op space, right? The business operations side of things. And browser use is a big name. I know you've played a lot with it, right? We've brought up N8N, but I'd love to hear from your perspective as you've been using browser use on how people can use it practically in their personal professional life.
Yeah, so browser base is a really cool technology where it will monitor your clicks and understand what you're doing on a website and be able to then mimic that and repeat that every time. So if you log in to a website, you click the login button, you do some filterings. Say you're using Power BI or another one of these dashboarding tools, it can track all of those steps that you take and then replay that every single day. So now you're building a companion that already understands the steps that you take for a task and be able to do that and generate all of that for you. So it's very, very cool technology. It's still very much emerging. It's not perfect. It doesn't work great on every site. The changing of the aspect ratios of it is something that it does mess it up. But I think it does have a lot of potential. And I think what we're seeing with OpenAI pushing it, you've got browser use for Claude that's available. All of these big providers are providing this capability, as well as some of the small providers like Convergence and Skyvern and
Right.
others that are able to do this. It's going to be able to really help you in those repetitive tasks. I know personally, I use it for doing reviews for Airbnbs and being able to do that. It's something we do often, and you're able to then go ahead and repeat it, and then you use AI to generate the response on how the client was when they were there. So it's something that saves me maybe 15 minutes every time I've got a client coming in. So it's a great way, I think. But I think Nick, what do you think about it?
I love the fact that we're now giving AI the ability to control computers.
Right.
It's a little
Just browsers right now, not your full computer yet. There are
well,
some
Almost.
tools
well,
that for
M-
computers.
MCP was built on computer use. Browser use is a subset of it. So MCP, Model Context Protocol, was originally developed by Anthropic, and computer use is the main sort of platform. So it launches a computer or a virtual desktop in some cloud environment wherever they choose, and it actually controls the computer. So if you're downloading data sets off from the browser, it saves an Excel file and then it opens up Excel. So now it has actual use of a computer, not your computer. Now, there are open source versions where you can deploy it on your personal laptop, which I would highly recommend against, unless you know exactly what you're doing, where it can control your computer itself.
Wow.
I've played around with it on another laptop that I don't regularly use, and I think that's a great
The
option.
burner one, the burner
The,
one.
the
Yeah,
burner.
well, putting it in container is probably the best practice, but that there is a level of technical expertise that it takes to stand up a Docker container on your computer.
It does, and I think what I'm really excited about is if you remember my acronym for agents, right,
OODA
is
loop.
OODA loop. So I'm gonna popularize this. It's actually a term that came out of the military. It stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. So
Love it.
OODA. Okay. And what that means is when you come into a new environment, whatever environment, it could be a wartime environment, you have to observe, which means taking in data through all of your senses. You can apply it similarly to AI. AI takes in data. And then you orient, meaning you clean the data and then you only focus on what matters. Now, that can apply in real world or it can apply here with AI because AI needs to help focus on the right set of data to make sure it's giving you the correct answer. Now, this is where you cross over into from chatbots to agents, where now agents can make decisions based on the data that they observed and oriented on top of, and then they can act. And when that means act, it means that they need to have access to a set of tools, right?
Right.
And MCP is one of them. So it's a little scary, and there needs to be a lot of guardrails put into place, and definitely human oversight, otherwise known as human in the loop. But I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, and I'd like to. That's actually a really good point on the transition for upskilling, right? Because we've been getting a lot of messages. Well, look, if some of these tasks are replaced by agents and I'm without that job, what can I do next? And it really is upskilling, from EQ to communication skills to understanding these agents, or even going down to bots or chatbots, et cetera, that we're used to using. You have to understand it so that you can supervise it. Because you're right, Nick and Jason, I'd love to hear from you on the upskilling side. How can people lift up their skill set to be on the positive end of this net effect to the labor force?
Yeah, the analogy that I like to use to help people is, because there's a lot of people that are fear that AI will take their job. Um, think about autopilot. When we were
Right.
first starting flying airplanes across transatlantic flights, it took 7 pilots in the cockpit to do that. Once you had autopilot, the flights didn't go down. The amount of pilots that were necessary went down, but that meant that there were more flights. So I feel the same thing with the AI technology that we're getting. We're now getting assistant that we don't need as many people to do the same job. We're going to have more people doing more jobs. So I think this is where AI will help unlock you from some of those jobs that you're not enjoying, and not, I wouldn't say jobs, I would say tasks. The tasks that you're not doing, because it's an assistant that will help you there, but it allow you to have a lot more creative freedom to do things that are also beneficial to your company and your business that you didn't have the time for because you were focused on this other task.
If I may jump in here, I really
Yeah.
want to spend a quick second. And I know that this is sort of a central topic and something that's really major to this conversation, just because how popular it's become. I do want to spend a few minutes just sort of going back in history and
Yeah.
understanding the human machine interface, right? And how we have had to we have had to train ourselves as humans to communicate with the machines because the machines weren't smart enough to communicate the way
Right.
humans communicate. Now Now these machines can communicate the way we communicate organically through organic conversation, natural language, right? So now the tables are turning, and now those frustrating jobs that Jason was talking about that are just a drain on society. There are so many people out there who just wake up every morning and they hate going to work because they
Hmm.
hate the work that they do.
Right.
Because I call them data couriers. So they take data from this application and they put it in this application, and this is what they do all day. And I think that's very draining, and there's a huge mental load that it bears on society. So I think that these agents are going to help free up sort of that lower level work. Now, those lower level jobs will go away, but new jobs will be created up top.
And Nick, I'd like to challenge. I'm not sure it's a drain on society. It's a drain on creativity. That if
Right.
you're just picking one
Wasted.
box up and putting that down, you're not going to be creative and find new ways to do that. But
Yeah.
once you have the freedom for creativity, this is where I think the ingenuity spirit that we have will really
Right.
transform what we can accomplish and what we're going to be able to do in the future.
Yeah, I love
This
that.
this is interesting because I know we have some out there that, I mean, we might have some people in the audience, and I've seen it. They've DM'd us and they're looking for work, right? And they're trying to figure out how they navigate through this loss of job because it was overtaken by some sort of AI tool or AI team agents. And so they're looking to upskill and they're asking us, well, what can we do, right? There's also another end, right? And we have clients in the recruiting space that are looking to implement. It's a very legacy based industry. I think we could all see it on LinkedIn, right? You hear about all the horror stories with, and not to put any companies out there, but some companies out there that it requires you to do like 3 different profiles, right? The interview process is lengthy and it's tough. And the recruiting industry is really trying to narrow down that time to fill. And we've been able to provide resources using White Glove and Lucidus to shorten that up and save recruiting companies a lot of money and get the best talent over to the clients. And I'd love to hear from either one of you on, what do you think is going on there? How do we automate this recruiting cycle? How do we use AI to make it more efficient and select the best people in the fair and most equitable way? Jason, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this topic now on the other lens, right? Not the candidate, but the actual one recruiting for clients.
Yeah, so I think recruiting has always been utilizing some level of AI to filter out resumes and
Right.
narrowing that down. Now they're getting overloaded with the amount of resumes that are 100% fit for jobs because people have figured out I can use generative AI to write my resume perfectly to fit this role and write a
Right.
perfect cover letter to go with that. So now they're going to have to find other ways to be able to do that, to be able to filter out those candidates because there's not enough recruiters to evaluate, let's call 3,000 candidates that all have a perfect resume. So they're going to have to start thinking differently and being more creative on how they're looking to hire those positions and what they're going to need in order to do this. So there may be more of a knowledge based test to be able to, okay, your resume looks good, but now let's take this test on whether you can fit in this role. What is your creativity of this? So I think there's going to be some ways that HR professionals are going to have to pivot from their traditional method of hiring to think of new creative ways to be able to start bringing in top talent.
I would say that the recruiting process has been broken for a long time,
Too
and it
long.
it isn't the fault of the people. The fault lies in the ability to measure a candidate's ability to perform the job in a very short and time constrained manner. And there's so many different ways of interviewing a candidate, right? It normally used to be back in the day you would come into a physical place and hand them a resume on very nicely printed stock, and then hopefully somebody calls you, and then now it's transitioned into online job postings where you put in your applications. Now, this ability to apply online has created an overabundance of candidate applications that come in, and recruiters had no other choice than to employ what are called ATS, or applicant tracking systems, to automate the culling. Right, so at the top you have all the resumes, all the applications, and somehow they need to get to a smaller population so they can identify that short list of people that they will interview for that role. It's impossible to expect a human to go over 2,000, 3,000 applicants, right? It's just impossible. So we've used technology of the past that simply just read the resume and then based on certain criteria will literally just drop the resume. And that's created a lot of frustration and it's created a lot of ghosting by employers. But I think now with AI coming into place, this this creates an equal playing field for both for candidates and for employers because now candidates have the power of a PhD in their pocket who can take the job requisition and their resume, completely
Right.
rewrite their resume whilst still remaining factual to match that profile exactly. So applicant tracking systems are broken. So
They're
what does the
super broken.
employer do, right?
Right.
The employer has to now use AI. So it's AI sort of testing AI. So there's a lot more I can say, but I think that the playing field is level now, and I think there are lots of opportunities to employ AI. I love the skills based, but I want to pass it over back to Jason just to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nick. I think the skills base is definitely something that's critical, and I think everyone needs to focus on that. Whether you're employed or you're not, you've got to be able to always continue to upskill, and you've got to have that continuous learning mindset to do this. I was recently added to the advisory committee for the Houston Christian University. They have a 4-day artificial intelligence certificate program that helps people do to be able to get those skills and be able to do that. And you're not investing, a quarter or a semester or even a multi-year degree program, because truthfully, what we've seen with AI, it's going to change
It's
within
changing so
24
fast.
hours, let's say. It's not like traditional technology that, at least it's 18 months before the next major cycle of change. It's now changing every day and it's evolving. So being able to take these smaller, concise programs, I think are really what's going to help people continuously learn, upskill themselves, and stay relevant for whatever types of roles that they have.
That's great. No, I'm excited, just to kind of unwind what we chatted about today. We spent some time in the retail space. It's transforming, and I love that White Glove is ahead of it. We play with some major players in the game, and then switching gears and not only into the labor force, the workforce, and upskilling, but also the other end. There's a huge industry that we're a part of and support in the recruiting space, and I know there's a lot of firms, small to even large, talent acquisition within enterprise that are trying to figure out what to do. Right, we have the AI AMF framework. White Glove and our virtual CAIO program jumps in, educates, and then integrates. Before integrate, right, going through the rest of the 6 other steps that we want to uncover and work with leaders out there. So really excited about that. I know we're running out of time, right? I don't want to spoil too much about what's going on tonight. We have Melissa Kraft, the Chief Information Officer for the City of Frisco up in Dallas. So excited. We're going to be spending time with her tonight. I know you gentlemen have spent a lot of time with Melissa, and without going into too much details, you all want to give something a little taster to the audience on what to expect. I'll be quiet about it because I'll be doing a lot of the question asking tonight, but would love to hear from both of you.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. So, Melissa, and I mean, the city of Frisco just has an amazing culture of innovation. For those of you who don't know, the world famous incubator Plug and Play, just about a year and a half ago, touched down and put 2 more offices here in Texas, squarely inside of the city of Frisco for the sports tech and fintech verticals, and then squarely the second office here in McKinney. And McKinney is focused on enterprise and AI verticals. So just in this corridor, we have so much innovation happening, and I really feel like the energy is very different. The vibe is very different than the neighboring cities. So a little bit about Frisco. They're very innovative. Innovation is actually on the city council's top 10 items for the city.
Excellent.
and they're always looking for ways to really champion and pioneer with the right partners, the most amazing and just things you don't even see in private environment, public sectors adopting already. They've already purchased voice AI services from White Glove AI, where we man their traffic hotline,
Wow.
where instead of being confronted with a pre-recorded message, you're actually greeted by what sounds like a human being, but it's actually AI. And the AI empathizes with you. Obviously, if it's a traffic situation, a lot of times there's a heightened emotion state of
Right.
emotions there. So it empathizes with you. It sort of brings you back down and helps you report correctly what it is your issue is, and then it classifies that call recording, the transcription, and it auto generates an email and sends it to the correct team for action. So that's something I can publicly say. There is a potential here in the near future for an AI avatar to be servicing. So our avatars are fully streaming conversations. So they have live conversations with you. The best way I can explain it without showing you, it's like FaceTiming somebody. And we can
Right.
create a digital twin or replica of any living and consenting human being. I'll keep it at that. I don't want to
Yeah.
spoil too much of your show, Albert. But back to you.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I'm looking forward to speaking to Melissa. We've had some back and forth, and I know you gentlemen have had an amazing experience with her. Love what we're doing for the city of Frisco. I used to live in Allen. You both know this, and Frisco was always on the map, and it was right when things were kicking off. People were moving in, and it's so great. Melissa's done a great job with the whole team to really put Frisco on the map. But for those of you that are in municipality or government, in the government side of things or government sector, share this, right? I think people need to hear what Melissa's up to. She's clearly a first mover, a change agent, and we'd love to see more of Texas follow suit, right? It can't just be Frisco, right? It can't just be the city of Austin, right? It needs to be more. I love, Jason, that you brought up Houston. We need more in Houston. So I know it's 75% market cap in oil and gas, and I was just chatting with people in that sector. They're starting to scratch the surface. We need to get on AI. So I'm looking forward to White Glove being a part of all of Texas. Very exciting. All right. Well, that's it for today's AI Executive Morning Buzz. Big thanks again to our CEO and founder of White Glove AI, Nick James, and then our virtual CAIO, Jason Hess, both of them doing practical work in the AI space, making things happen in nationwide, but also in the state that we love, Texas. We're excited for tonight. Our Chief Information Officer of the City of Frisco, Melissa Kraft, we'll be spending time with her. And again, we challenge you all to continue to stay curious, innovative, and we'll see you every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning, 7:30 a.m. Central, while you're sipping your coffee, doing your meditation, working out, or driving to work. We can't wait to see you next time, and we'll see you all tonight. Thanks
See
so
ya.
much.